Vince, offensive line. That's the final group, right? O-line,
Yeah.
how did they recruit?
Yeah.
I gave it an A.
Yeah.
I gave it an A. I think if without Billy Shrouth, it's a B.
Yep.
Getting Billy Shrouth gives him an A because what you've done is you've now met your need. You've now added an impact player. What they lacked without Billy, they had a lot of high ceiling guys, but a lot of high ceiling guys with lower floors. Billy, to me, what makes him so good is he's got both. And to me, he's the best combination of high floor, high ceiling they have in the class. I mean, there's like Emilia Wagner, Tai Chan, really high ceilings, but they're not guaranteed players to me.
Right.
You know,
No,
Joey
I
Tinona
agree.
has Joey Tinona probably has the second highest floor in the class behind Billy Shrouth.
Yeah.
But I don't know if his ceiling's quite as high as Wagner and Chan. So, but together I give it an A because number one, it's a top 5 offensive line class. If you're a top 5 offensive line class, you're a national championship caliber class. That's the very definition of an A class, right? And then you get beyond. So you met your numbers needs, you added impact talent. All 5 of those linemen are ranked in the top 200 nationally by at least one recruiting service. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And Ashton Craig's senior film was outstanding.
It was. And I liked that pickup because it was an in-state pickup. It was somebody that was kind of off the radar a little bit.
It was this year's Joe Alt.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how I look at it.
That's a really good point.
And we said that at the time. Like, you give me a Joe Alt and an Ashton Craig every year in a 4 to 5 man class, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Because if they hit, they hit. I also watched a lot more of Joey Tinona's senior film. He played a lot more left tackle this year. And he looked like – I don't know if you had a chance to see his senior film, Vince, but the thing I thought about Joey's, I thought he slimmed down. I thought he got – because he was that kind of a – I'm trying to say this like – I'm talking football terms now, not like – judging a person's body. I'm talking about how a coach, he had kind of a lot of baby fat on him. He had a really young face, had a lot of that, little kid pudginess on him, that big kids kind of have. And then as they get older and they kind of sprout up, that kind of weight goes away. I thought he looked a little leaner this year. And that had him looking quicker. And that's good because now Matt Bayless can put good weight on him.
Muscle and add, good weight.
And so Joey,
none of these guys are over 300, are they?
Tai Chan is, yeah.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because somebody said something to me today about, well, I don't know about Notre Dame's offensive line class. They all look skinny. I was like, no.
That's kind of what they recruit, though.
I said, that's fine, though, because they're about to go with the best strength coach in the country, and he's going to build them up.
Right. I mean, that's how you would describe Mike McGlinchey. That's how you would describe Zack Martin. That's how you would have described Joe Alt. That's how you would have described Liam Eichenberg. That's how you would have described Robert Hainsey. That's how you would have described, a lot of guys that Notre Dame has had some success with. Guys like Alex Bars was a bigger bodied kid. Aaron Banks, Quentin Nelson was that. But
those guys are like broad,
right? Right. But they've recruited a lot of big, like long kids.
Right.
And like even like Emilia Wagner, right? Like that's your biggest bust potential in the class because we don't know about his size. But if he can get to 290 and play like a 290 pounder, right? Because look, anybody can get to 300 pounds. That doesn't mean it's a good 300 pounds. Doesn't mean you're going to still be athletic at 300 pounds.
Right.
If he can get to at least 290, because Robert Hainsey spent most of his career around 290. Zack Martin didn't get to above 295 till his 5th year.
Right.
If he can get to that level and play like a 290 pounder, he might arguably have the highest ceiling of all these guys we've talked about. Right now, he's got the biggest gap, and so when you look at that from that standpoint, man, it's like that's also impressive. This is and something I think they've gone away from in recent years. I don't think Jeff Quinn recruited a lot of tough kids. Like a lot of athletes.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. There was no Quentin Nelson, just mean.
Blake Fisher was that way, right?
That's what
Michael Carmody was that way. But a lot of these kids were kind of, they were athletic dudes, right? Like,
sure.
Like Joe Alt's a technician. Now he's a competitive kid, but he's just not. Joe will battle, but he's just not a real physical mauler kid. He tries, but he's just not powerful, I guess is a better way of putting it.
Sure.
Tosh Baker's not that guy. He's just more of an athletic guy. Caleb Johnson's not that. Caleb's an effort guy, but he's not like that real fit. The kids in this class can, even a guy like Emilia Wagner, you go watch his film. We talked about this when he committed. I thought he was going to be this super athletic, pass pro guy that wasn't real physical. Exact opposite. He was better in the run game than he was pass pro. He's a physical kid. Now that doesn't project to the next level when you're smaller than some of the DNs you're going to go against or defensive tackles you're going to go against. So when I look at that, I like this group because there's some attitude in this group. Like these guys these guys got some powerful hands. There's some strong hand individual kids in this class. They all got some pop to them. Tai Chan, when he committed, he was like 255, 260, tall, skinny. I was like, I don't know what this kid's going to do. He didn't play as a junior because of COVID. And I'm like, how good's Tai Chan? I don't know. I haven't seen him play. When last time he played was like 250. Well, then he comes out as a senior, like, that's not Tai Chan. I've seen Tai Chan. Tai Chan's tall and skinny. This kid's 6'5", 305 pounds. And he's mauling and he's mashing people. And it's like, okay. And then the final piece for me, Vince, and then I want you to share your thoughts. This is a group that you can start as a 5-man unit. Now, I don't know what it could be Wagner and Chan at tackle.
There's flexibility there.
It could be Wagner and Tinona. It could be Wagner and Craig, because I think all of them can play tackle. I think Ashton Craig can play tackle. I think Joey Tinona can play tackle. I don't think Joey Tinona's best position is tackle, but he can play it. I think let's say you go Wagner and Chan, and then you've got Craig at center, and then Tinona and Shrout at guard. If that group eventually gets to that point, I mean, that's a pretty good lineup. And the reason I go A2, Vince, is because I'm a believer, and I try to be consistent. I've always believed, and I've said publicly in a show, that 5 really good offensive linemen that are playing together is an elite offensive line, even if you don't necessarily have an elite offensive lineman. And you can have an elite offensive lineman or 2, but if your unit's not good, you're not going to have an elite offensive line.
It doesn't matter.
And that's really what it came down to. It's maybe there's not a top 50. There's no Quentin Nelson in this group. There's no I don't even know if there's necessarily Liam Eichenberg, who I had as a top 50 player and the number 1 recruit in the 2016 class. There's no Blake Fisher, but as a 5-man group, boy, this is as good. And no one's even talking about the class anymore. It's all about the hat.
I know, sir. And even my father-in-law is talking about the hat. So there you go.
But to me, that's why I went with A on this, Vince. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's A for me, number 1, because they got Billy Shrouth at the last second. And I think that was huge. That he was the anchor of this class, but it's A as a group because of the balance. I mean, I'm not going to repeat everything that you just said, but it's because of the balance. It's not, like you said, they didn't just go out and get 5 interior guys, and they didn't just go out and get 5 tackles, although I am a fan of guys bringing in tackles and turning them into whatever, right? I am a huge fan of that. And that was kind of the Harry Heastand way of recruiting, and I loved it. Because if you're a tackle at your high school, you're most likely the best offensive lineman at your school because they're going to put you at tackle, right? And so bringing in 5 of those guys, then you're going to be great. Those are going to be the 5 best guys at their school. I mean, it's a given. And this is coming from a high school coach that generally put our best guys at tackle. Now, we like to pull a lot and do some stuff. So we like to put our best guys at guard, but that's a different conversation. But that I like that strategy. But this group, I feel like the top 4 guys are really solid, like just solid guys. And I love the pickup of Craig. I just think that he's obviously not a guy you want to build your class around, but he is. You're muted, Brian.
It's okay. If I'm muted, just keep talking.
Okay, sorry.
I'll figure it out. Why is this freaking guy ignoring me? This is my show. You don't ignore me. Oh, wait, I'm muted like an
idiot.
idiot.
You'll just be like banging your fist and you want to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I love the pickup of Craig because I think he just fills it out. He just fills out this class.
You've been consistent about that one.
Yeah, I love that because he's just gritty. I love his film, even his junior film.
His senior film was so much. We both liked him. You liked him even more than I did. I think it's your Indiana State bias.
Definitely possible.
But man, his senior film, I mean, he's got some nastiness to him.
And that's what I love.
Yeah.
So
props to Jeff Quinn and Tommy Reese for identifying him,
Absolutely.
And passing on a kid like Carson Hinsman, who's a really good football player for him. If you're going to pass on Carson Hinsman to take Ashton Craig, you better flip and pan out because Carson Hinsman's a really good football player. And Ashton, look, there was a couple times in this class on offense that they took a flyer on a guy that I'm like, I'm not sure if maybe that was the right move. And it 2 out of 3 were home runs, Jadarian Price and Ashton Craig. The third one, Maureen Walker, didn't pan out so well.
No, it didn't.
But the other 2 really, really panned out. Somebody asked a question, too, of these 10 guys, how many can play in the offense in the NFL? Most likely only half of them will, just kind of how it pans out.
Just the numbers.
If it really hits out well, 6, because some of these guys just aren't going to, be starters because they're going to be going around. But I looked at the 2013 and 14 classes, which was the best 2-year production of NFL players that I could remember off the top of my head. And in a 2-year stretch, you had 10 offensive linemen or 9 offensive linemen. And to me, and 4 of them went pro, but that's an asterisk because 5 of them would have. Steve Elmer didn't go pro because
he would have.
Football.
He would have.
After his junior, he would have gone pro. He would have played in the NFL.
No question.
If he wanted to, stay with football. But still, 5 out of 9, that's a pretty good hit rate. You had Mike McGlinchey, Steve Elmer, would have Quentin Nelson, Alex Barr, Sam Mustipher, all NFL players. The guys that weren't, Hunter Bibbin, Colin McGovern, John Montelis, and Jimmy Byrne were the guys that didn't. And then you look at the 2016 and 17 classes, it depends on what happens with Josh Lugg, right?
True.
But then Tommy Kramer injuries, I think. I mean, so it was like about – you had 7 in those 2-year span. You had Liam Eichenberg, Tommy Kramer, and Parker Boudreaux in one class. Although you could say Parker Boudreaux went pro wrestling, but he did actually. He's trying.
I know he did.
Yeah,
I remember.
And then the next year you had Robert Hainsey, Aaron Banks, Josh Lugg, and Dylan Gibbons. Well, Liam Eichenberg went pro, and I still believe if Tommy Kramer doesn't have all the injuries, he would have been a 6th or 7th round draft pick at worst, if not for the end. He had some bad injuries he played. That was one tough flipping kid. There's a lot of people that would not have been able to play with a back, a shoulder, a knee. I mean, that kid was banged up and he kept playing. He was a warrior, as close as what a football player can be to a warrior. Robert Hainsey and Aaron Banks were both drafted. Now, if Josh Lugg gets in the NFL, whether it's drafted or gets signed like Alex Bars and Sam Mustipher did, then that obviously jumps that rate up. But that's 3 out of 7. I mean, that's close to 50%. That's okay if he doesn't get hurt. It's 50%. So, or actually be over 50%. So
it's not a bad hit rate. Really.
Half.
Yeah.
If the class is as good as we think, it'll be half. If it's better, if it's really good, you could see 6 of the 10 perhaps. Because when I look at it, like I think that Blake Fisher obviously is an NFL guy. Joe Alt. He started as a freshman at Notre Dame.
He's a freshman All-American,
right?
I mean, he's not and there's some talk he's not a regular All-American. He's a freshman All-American,
right?
Not taking anything away from that because that's a great accomplishment, but he is a freshman All-American,
right? And then you have Rocco Spindler will have a chance. It's funny, 2 of those kids had dads that played in the NFL. Not a coincidence, I don't think.
No.
And then this year's class, I think Chan has a chance. I think Billy Schrouth obviously has a chance. And then it comes down to how does Emilia Wagner develop? If Emilia Wagner can get up that ceiling, right? I mean, if he can get to 290 plus and play like it, get kind of creeping up on 300 pounds. I mean, he's so athletic and long, he'll get a shot to play in the NFL, and maybe even be a high draft pick. I mean, if he can kind of fill out like Tyron Smith filled out, then, he could be a high draft pick because athletically he's there.
Right.
And then it's, Ashton Craig, how does he fill out? How does Joey Tinona? I mean, there's so much with
there's
offensive
too many,
line, but
these guys
there's
are 18.
not, other than Pat Coogan and sort of Caleb Johnson, but even he could fill out. I mean, most of these guys, like if he reaches his peak, he's an NFL player. It doesn't work like that. You don't have in a 2-year span, all 10 guys reach their peak. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
As much as I would like it to.
No,
so,
absolutely.
That's the offensive line, Vince. You said A-, correct?
No, I said A.
Okay.
I
tight end was the one you were.
Yeah,
okay.
tight end I went A-, but O-line, as soon as they got Billy Schrouth, it was like I'm submitting my report card. Like we're good. Let's go.
So now we.